First of all, I think your analysis was very straight line. History doesn't run in a straight line.
Kid, you cannot tell your neighbor he is stealing ducks when you are stealing funds.
As High Commissioner, I was wrong. As Charandas Prasad, I reacted naturally how any person would have.
I did not come here for that kind of abuse. I did not come here for that kind of abuse. If you're going to go down that road, I'll walk off.
But it's all okay once they're talking. If they were talking, I could not have been here today.
You got ADHD.
I got that.
Calm down.
I think I've done enough in terms of taking our team out of trouble from losing.
Come on, Lou Taylor. That's good. I'm reading the script now, and the first person that comes to my mind to play a detective, but an erratic detective is Mikhail Rodriguez.
Why an African slap an Indian? Why a man and slap a woman? Look, girl, how you deal with that? You deal with that.
We must encourage platforms like this because it brings together different people and allows for discussions to take place in our country on a multiplicity of fundamental issues.
Kingdom, you apologizing for something you think I did is wrong. I don't want you to do that, and you should not have done that. Hi there, welcome to the Freddie Kissoon Show with co-host Leonard Craig. In case you don't know, I feel it obligatory to give you the intellectual standing of Mr. Craig. He holds a first degree from the University of Guyana in economics, a master's from the Berlin School of Economics, and went to China to complete his doctorate at the Harbin Institute of Technology. So welcome once more to our program. Wherever you are, good night, good afternoon, good morning. Our guest this evening is a very, very interesting Guyanese. He is a Caucasian Guyanese, not an Indian, Amerindian, Portuguese, or African. He will tell you whether he's Portuguese or he is Madeiran. But
I'm not. I'm very white, very Northern European.
But he just said to me, he's not in the screen, but he just said to me, he's very English, but he was born in Guyana. He is one of the most accomplished international journalists from Guyana, making a name for himself at the BBC in the UK, other media organizations in the UK. He's the author of several books and several articles in referee journals. He's currently the editor of a periodical book, not a periodical, a book that comes out on Guyana oil, and this book is in its 10th edition. I will show you the cover of the 10th edition, which is coming out in December, but let me show you the man of the moment. He writes profusely in the Guyanese newspaper and signs his name as Bill Cotton, but his real name is John Mair, M-A-I-R. John, you're looking good. Welcome to the program.
Thanks, Freddie. Just a few facts.
Co-host Leonard Craig.
It's the 7th edition, by the way.
7th edition, yeah.
It's just 10 years after.
10 years after oil.
First off.
Now, let's show you this. This is the 7th edition. This book is coming out in December, and John should be here for the oil conference in February, hopefully to sell this interesting edition of the oil industry in Guyana. He has been editing this book for the past 7 years, and this 7th edition looks at the decade-old oil industry in Guyana. John, thanks for being here. We'll do this again in February. Now, since you were here last February, we've had some interesting developments. We're into an election campaign. When we were discussing this interview, I said, John, what are we going to discuss? So let me enumerate them. You want to discuss what is the Guyanese attitude to oil, this sovereignty,
Sovereign Wealth Fund, the Natural Resources Fund.
The Natural Resource Fund, you call it in Norway,
Sovereign Wealth Fund.
Sovereign Wealth Fund. you want to discuss the elections 2023. So, and finally, this thing about oil could be a blessing on discourse. So we have an hour, John. Let's start with my curiosity. What is it about the 2025 election you want to discuss?
Well, it's going to be an interesting election. I mean, any government that has money and oil shouldn't lose. They just shouldn't lose. You know, they've got a way to buy the electorate from now to kingdom coming. And AFN did a bit of that last week with, you know, a £200,000 grant, and there'll be a few more of those along the way. So there'll be lots of election goodies. So you've got a government which has serious money. You've got an opposition that's frankly laughable. You know, it doesn't really exist, and you've got lots of small parties. But I think eventually people will vote. It'll be the usual racial census in Guyana, and the PPP should win. And also, Irfan is actually rather popular. I was at a lunch with him last week, and he came in and he worked the room. He went around the whole room, shaking the hands of people, and then after he finished his food, he came around and did it again. You know, he has a popular touch.
But you made a mistake there when you met him.
Why?
Knowing you and your personality, when you were seated, you should have bent down, picked up your bag, and say, Mr. President, look, buy some of these books for your ministers.
He has some already. I'll give him some already. This is a sin standards us old boys do. And
yes, you met him when they
last Tuesday. He said, you didn't go to Saints. I said, no, Irfan, I was too clever to go to Saints. He didn't say anything about that.
He went to Saints.
He did, of course he did.
So you had some books there?
I had some, the last edition. Now, this is currently in gestation. This is currently 3/4 finished on a computer.
Before I hand over to Leonard Craig, you said money still outstanding for books sold at the last February conference?
Yep, certain people still owe me money. I mean, don't want to name any names or point any fingers, but
20 US, man?
To Cuba Lodge.
To Cuba Lodge?
Yes. Which ministry is in Tacuba Lodge?
There's no ministry in Tacuba.
Foreign Affairs.
Oh, Tacuba Lodge. I'm confusing it. No, but they should take more.
They took 15. I'm still waiting for the money.
Okay, hold a sec. I know the foreign minister. Mr. Todd, if you're listening to this program, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs owe John money for 15 copies of his book, the 6th edition of this book. Minister Todd, please make sure in February when John comes again, he gets paid. And then you have to pay for the 7th edition.
Or before.
Or before. No, but why you didn't contact him?
Well, I've contacted the world at MFA, but
I have his number. You want to call him?
No. I met him last week in Parliament.
Oh, so you'll get your money?
No, I don't know, but I just think, look,
must be a bureaucratic fallout.
Guyana has problems with commitment, and this shows it. You know, you say to people, "I'll meet you at 12 o'clock," and they say, "No, I can't do 12 o'clock. I'll do." You know, this has taken 4 years to fix this interview. 4 years, Freddie?
4 years.
You had 4 attempts to fix this time.
Yeah. No fault of mine. And you did not say you came in the country, told me you were in the country, but did not say, can we do it at this specific time or this?
I'm not the producer. That's you guys. You know. But look, so there's a problem with commitment. So, and there's also bring it around to oil. People think that oil will give them everything. Oil is freedom. Oil is everything.
Let's go to Leonard.
I'd like to pick up on an interesting comment you made. You said a government in power with oil resources to manage shouldn't lose an election. For how long? Do you think money is the major and only basis upon which elections are won? For how long do you think? I know there is a honeymoon period with oil and the beginning and so on, but when does it get stale, or it doesn't at all?
Look, I mean, this government has had $4 billion into the wealth fund and still has $1 billion in it. So they can buy anything for people. And so, you could, of course you can buy votes.
They can't use the fund the way they want to. It's governed by law.
I mean, that's another question. The law is such that they can actually dip into the fund and use it for... This year they're going to spend 96% of their earnings from the fund. 96%, Freddie. So only 4% is going to go towards the future. Think of that figure.
No, but Craig's question is very academic.
All right, it's also to do with feelings, with... look at Keir Starmer in Britain. Mm-hmm. The reason that he got a massive majority is people were very fed up with the Conservatives. They just didn't want them. Mm-hmm. So they said... He stood on one word, change. Mm-hmm. Change. That's all he stood on.
So there's a limit to the extent to which oil resources, the availability of oil resources, can make a government electable.
Yes, I mean, but if people fed up with the government, you tell me. I don't detect anything.
No, I don't detect that one bit. Yeah, I'm just theorizing.
It's to do with feeling, money, and the future. Mm. And they put those together. Back to Starmer, he got a 400-seat majority, which is unheard of in Britain, on one word, on change. We just want rid of these people. And I don't get the feeling yet with this government that's true. Right. I mean, if it was, you'd pick it up. People are moaning. Of course they're moaning. People moan about governments all the time. That's the nature of it. But you've got an ineffectual opposition as well.
Yeah. Surely. I've been saying that several times.
He writes a column in the Chronicle.
Right in the Guyana Chronicle, and I've written that several times.
I mean, the new book has a very good chapter in it by Elson Lowe. Very good chapter in it.
Elson Lowe, the PNC oil advisor.
And it is very good, very thoughtful, and it's the only thoughtful thing I've seen come out of the opposition. So no, I mean, you got an opposition that's. It's toothless, If you've got the president in Parliament, you don't walk out. That's stupid. You're saying A to the president, you don't matter, and saying to people, he doesn't matter. That plainly isn't true, is it? So all of those things. I would be amazed if the current government wasn't re-elected.
Right. I share your sentiment. On the 2025 election, one other question. You have said how you visualize not the specific results, but generally the government would be re-elected. What sense do you have about third and smaller parties and how they will fare in the next election?
Not much, though the AFC seems to be a little bit stronger. It seems to be less of a joke, which sadly, under my friend Ken Raj, it was a joke, and under Moses.
A libel is coming your way.
No, not a joke. It was not a serious party. And Nigel Hughes is more serious. In terms of other parties...
What metric are you using to say it wasn't serious? Because, in my opinion, they had a greater momentum with the people than Nigel does right now.
They did in 2011. They did in 2011, because people saw it as...
But isn't that a serious party?
Way of crossing it. Well, it was a serious party, and then you got Moses jumping ship to them. You got Shamraj all over the place, and you've now got with the AFC a black leadership. Where the Indians in the AFC leadership. So,
right.
No, it was a serious party. It no longer is a serious party, in my view.
Oh. I thought you were saying the other way around.
No, it's lost its credibility.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what. One of the things we need to tell our viewers is that although he's a Guyanese who had left these shows, he has been coming back here often the past 30 years. I've run into this guy several times the past 20 years. And I think that is commendable. Some people leave and they come back every 5 years, or they come back even every 2-3 years. He comes almost every year. So
twice this year, Freddie.
And he keeps in touch with what's going on in Guyana. For example, the AFC had a new leadership just a couple of months ago, and the man said it's a full leadership. He knows the people in the leadership. But John, Can I
Can I answer your question? I don't know if I did I?
No, yeah, sure.
Can I ask you what you think about margins? What is likely to be the margin?
I'm not a psephologist. I only know about British election. I don't know. I mean, the PPP won the election. Was it 4,500 votes they won it by?
Last election?
Yeah, last
15,000.
15,000. All right, 15,000 out of
one seat majority.
Yeah, but look, in a parliamentary system, a winner is a winner. People go on. Then Starmer got, I think, it's 38% of the vote. Who cares? He's got 400 seats. He got a 400-seat majority. So I don't care. So I don't know the margins, Freddie. But I do think, I think there will be inducements for people to vote, shall we say? And as somebody said to me the other day, if you're an Amerindian in Guyana, you want an election every year.
Because you get inducement.
Yeah. That's funny.
Because it's 10 or 12%, isn't it?
Yes, 12%.
So please, can we have an election every year? And have lots of new baubles. So I don't know about margin, but I would be surprised. And I also think, as I was saying earlier on, I think Irfan has now built up a personal popularity, which he has something that Jagdeo doesn't have, which is social political skills. Jagdeo is an intellectual. Jagdeo doesn't like shaking hands and all of that. Jagdeo is a Russian-trained intellectual. Irfan actually likes people, you can tell it. Much more so. He's young. And I think that shows because he's put himself all around. And, he's here, there, and everywhere.
And he has a relaxed type of personality.
He does, yes. His speeches are too long.
But John, if you know him the way I do, he's generally a people's person. He grew up in Lenora in very humble beginning. And the thing I like about him is when he calls you and he says he's going to give you 40, even if you ask for 40, even if he can't give you 40, he's going to try. He's going to try. And I think that commitment people see in him, and that is why I think he is going to be massively re-elected. My question I wanted to probe you about is the margin. But you're right. But why do you think, you said just now, look, Moses can match jokes. Nigel Hughes more serious. What can he bring to the AFC table?
Who Nigel Hughes? A brain, which is unusual in the AFC. just back to AFC.
You don't mince your words, eh?
No. I was with him last week at the Saints thing. He did a lunch for Saints, and he did a very good speech about what it was like for him at Saints. And he used to leave home at 4:45 in the morning in Leonora. He said whichever bus takes you, could come to the Stelling, come across and go to Saints, ready to be able to play before school began. And he did that for years and years and years. And you've heard it here first. I spoke to one of his classmates who said he wasn't the brightest boy in the class. And I also spoke to one of his teachers yesterday who said that was true. That was true, but he very affable. But he came across in all of that and all the stuff at Saints as a decent human being, somebody who wanted to give back to his school, which something that it had given to him. So anyway, what was your question, Freddie?
What you think Hughes will? The AFC has been so flattened. I mean, that can it be resurrected?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not a doctor or a spiritual person, but he's got a brain and he can argue. And he's worked at where some of his votes will come from, which is obviously Amerindians, and I don't know. You have to ask: Will middle class black people vote for the AFC? Will middle class Indian people vote for the AFC? I don't know the answer to that. You know better than me, and that should be where their support comes from.
Leonard?
Anyway, don't give my opinion.
No, give your opinion. You're speaking. No.
You're
in a company of a man who doesn't mince his words.
I don't support the idea that Nigel will necessarily add political intellectual capacity to the AFC. And I am not accusing Nigel of not being bright, but I'm saying politically, Granger himself suffered from a similar thing. Extremely bright person.
No political sense.
But politically, I don't see Nigel shining.
All right, understood. But not Tony Blair. Keir Starmer is a lawyer, is a boring lawyer.
Former DPP,
boring lawyer. People say this man is boring. He is not very. He's had a terrible first 100 days. He has a nightmare, but partially self-made. But lawyers can argue. Lawyers can find things to appeal. So you have to assume he's got that.
Yeah, surely.
I mean,
Cameron, that charisma.
Charisma of the brain. So people can see he's bright. But, Moses never had that, but nor did Cameron really.
Okay.
So let's see how the AFC does. And how will the other small parties do? Timothy Jonas's party, and who else is standing?
There's Timothy Jonas and the
Glenn Lyle.
Glenn Lyle is
talking about joke parties.
The what party?
Talking about joke parties.
Yeah. I don't think Lyle is going to get even 200 votes. I mean, it's all right to go on the screen and say, "Oh God, they're taking all our oil. Oh, mommy." Well, it's a different thing when people vote for you. I mean,
sure.
Lyle is infatuated with himself.
The Ian Sharma effect.
Yeah.
He's the Ian Sharma of his time.
Look, the laborers. One thing I learned about my country, John, I haven't lived much outside. I've studied. Worked in Grenada, I know Barbados well, but I studied in Canada. Right. One thing I know about those people who haven't been to university, somehow they know their politics. And you see those people that clean the trenches and sell the fish, they look on this phone and they like this Glenlaw thing. Oh, all our oil gone. But when it comes to voting, those people aren't going to leave at Timothy Jonas or Fanali and Nigel Hughes and vote for Glenlaw.
Well, look, I mean, it all depends on Uncle Sam. If Trump gets elected, which is a possibility, then there's a chance that populists, let's be kind, like Glenn again will get in. But
John may get out of here.
No. Yes, that's
so. I like to ask something a little on the personal side. Where did Bill Cotton come from and why?
Well, I used to write a TV column in the Chronicle many years ago, 20 years ago, in the early days of TV, and Bill Cotton was the head of the BBC. In fact, I once met him and told him I used his name. He was quite old, so I used his name and the slash before him. You can guess where that comes from.
Right.
It's a riff on the PNC.
PNC, right?
Yeah.
Standing Ming effect.
Yes.
Reform. Bill Cotton / reform.
Yes, I remember. So it's how I'm known a lot in this country. It doesn't bother me, and I don't hide behind it. So people who hide behind, what was it called? Them boys say, and what's the other one? Peep and Tom. Put the name. Let's know who they are. That's the whole point, isn't it? You have an opinion. And I used to write daily for the Stabroek in the good old days of David de Caires, and I enjoyed it because it basically I go to a lot of parties and have a lot of fun and write it up and. People virtually used to come up to me and say, "Can you put me in?" But now I just do it in letter form in the Stabroek.
Okay.
The last time you were here, I don't think I asked that question. I asked you a question I wanted to. That's because I was uneasy. But
you're not ever uneasy, Freddie.
Okay, but that knowing you, I think one of the things you can say about you. You would sit down with the interviewer and say, "Ask me anything." Were you a recipient of that elite Portuguese, English exceptionalism, social exceptionalism growing up? where the whites and the Portuguese dominated the country, got everything, they controlled the banks, the commerce.
Look, fortunately, for one thing, I'm not Portuguese.
Oh yes, you're English.
No.
But I did say the white.
My mother's family's been here for 200 years. They're Guyanese. My father was from Liverpool in Scotland, so I'm not Portuguese. And yes, I went to Sacred Heart. I went to an ordinary school here, and then I sat next to a young man called Charles Ransom, the senior. And I'm still friends with him. I saw him last night. So no, but and I did come top in the country, and then I left. So I quit at the top. So if I'd gone on to QC, yes, that would probably been true, Freddie. But come on, I went to Sacred Heart, with lots of people of brown, black, all sorts.
No, man, Sacred Heart was mostly Portuguese students.
No, it was not. It was not.
It was run by the Catholic Church.
It was run by the Catholic, and I'm not a Catholic, but it was not. There's a lot of Indian kids there, a lot of African Guyanese kids there. No, it wasn't a lot of Portuguese kids in my class. You atheist or you practice religion? No, I'm an atheist.
You're atheist.
But I helped to raise money for my local church because I think the church should have a function in the community, in where I live in Oxford. But of course there was stratification in education, and of course people who go to QC and indeed to Saints are going along different paths, aren't they?
The question Freddie asked, I'd like to ask a different dimension of it. Do you agree that privilege, the term people use, existed in Guyana?
And it still does.
The Mulatto Creole class is still much pronounced in Guyana.
In a different form. Mm-hmm. If you send your kid to Marion Academy or to School of the Nations, you pay serious money there. Yeah. You're putting the kid on a different path to if they go into an ordinary school out in the country. It still exists, but it's based more on money now than on skin color. And QC is still an avenue to privilege. Of course it is. I have a son who went to Oxford, and he came out of it with a double.
Who went to Oxford?
One of my sons.
Oh,
and he came out of it a double first in PPE, and jobs were being offered to him. He could have chosen whatever job he wanted. He's a banker now. So of course there's elitism. Of course there's privilege. I went to the LSE. And look at where that got me.
As a Guyanese, do you know a very powerful player in the British government now?
Lammy.
Do you know him?
I know. We have an uneasy relationship.
What's his politics like? He's not the Priti Patel and.
Somebody asked me from the Times, and I think it may be in the Times this week. Why did he join the Sovereign Wealth Fund, which he did in April 2022, and then he left in August 2022, and he was being paid, I think, $200,000 a month, and he shouldn't have done that. And I told him that. Valerie Amos told him that. I think that was a total conflict of interest. He was a member of a sovereign parliament, joining the wealth fund of another sovereign nation, and that was either stupid or greedy. You decide which one it was.
Okay, you don't socialize with him because of the Guyanese connection.
I met David 2 or 3 times. I went to his 40th birthday party a long time ago. Well, and I walked in and he said, "Don't report this." So I can't tell you. I can't tell anything. Everything that happened there, but no, I don't socialize. I see him on occasions, and we'll speak. But I sort of invented the term the Guyanese mafia in England, and he didn't like that. He didn't like the fact that he was a member of a thing called the Guyanese mafia.
Yeah, that term used to be thrown around, and I think I did read a couple of columns from you with that term in it. And we have a few former Guyanese who went to England and did very, very well.
Still doing it. Wahid Ali.
You give the man bad publicity in a letter recently.
I did. He gave himself.
You're sure the man won't sue you?
No, he's given the Labour Party £700,000 in the last 10 years. He bought spectacles for Starmer. He bought suits for Starmer. He bought dresses for Starmer's wife. Now, I'm a lifetime Labour voter, and I object to that. I don't think a prime minister or prime minister in waiting should be accepting those sort of things. And Starmer lived in his flat for 5 weeks. During the no, I mean, Wahid Ali is not a lot of people know he's Guyanese, but he is.
I don't know if you're aware that we have a case going on in which a policeman is being asked to account for $48 million.
Is this Brutus? Is this Brutus?
Yeah, and he said, but I'm wondering when any prime minister or cabinet minister got married, if they get that amount in
when I got married, many cabinet ministers were there.
No money, any money? No?
Yeah, I went to his wedding. Cabinet ministers were there. Yeah, I went to his wedding.
Yes, there are a lot of prominent Guyanese done well, and there's a very simple reason in that they were educated very well here. Valerie Amos, Baroness Amos.
Yeah, she's from Wickenham.
Who I read might be the next British ambassador to Washington, no less. She's the head of an Oxford college at the moment. Her father was headmaster from Wickenham, who emigrated to England, and she took home a school report, and she got 96% of history. He looked at it, he said, "Where's the other 4%?"
An Indian man.
Yes.
An East Indian man became the head of the Conservative Party. Now, in the UK.
So he's Indian, not East Indian. He's Indian.
Indian, where we call those people to differentiate them from South American native Indians.
No, he's British Indian.
Right.
Yeah.
He's Indian.
Yeah.
Right. And a black woman
may become leader.
May become the leader.
Well, I mean, people always say, why is it the Conservative front bench has black, brown, other faces? And the answer is very simple. English public schools. All of them went to English public schools, which are private schools. Yeah? So Sunak's parents paid for him to go to Winchester. So all of them have gone to an elite school. That's where they got their education. Whereas that doesn't happen on the Labour side. Labour has quite a lot of Muslims on the front bench, and NAMI. But if you pay for education, you get privilege.
My British favourite politician won his seat, Jeremy Corbyn.
Yeah, well, good luck to you.
He won his. No, I like Corbyn.
Do you?
I'm not sure.
Mine's anti-Semitic, but that's all right, Freddie.
You think he's anti-Semitic? Everything you criticize Israel, you say something about. Look, the Guardian cartoonist wrote a cartoon.
Steve Bell. Steve Bell.
The man was fired.
Yeah, the Jewish.
It says everything.
The Jewish lobby is very, very, very powerful in Britain. I've been on British television arguing about anti-Israeli, anti-Jews. They are very. I mean, they're attacking the BBC at the moment for being not pro-Israeli enough. So they're very powerful. And in fact, they got a BBC editor, Jeremy Bowen, moved from his job to another job. So
the power of the Jews.
The Jewish lobby in Britain, yes.
It's even stronger in the US. But when we were arranging this interview, let's get back to Guyana.
Yeah.
You said you want to... okay.
Yeah, I want to talk about oil.
Oil, yeah. Colorado.
Is it, in your opinion...
Blessing or a curse?
A blessing, right.
Thanks, Freddie. This is a little bit vulgar.
Or what's the blessing, what's the curse?
It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for this nation. Once in a lifetime. The GDP has gone up 43% in the first 6 months of the year. Fastest growing nation in the world. Money. But for 20 years, it's going to be very, very prosperous. And even with a bad PSA, it'll be prosperous. So, of course, it's a blessing. There's a question what you do with it, and how you manage the resources and how you plan for the future. I mean, I was hearing at the weekend the gas to energy project may actually be a year or two behind. They're not really building much over in Wales, and they're suing the company, a company who are doing it, and so the 50% electricity costs will have to wait till after the election. But you would have thought that was time to come just before the election. That's another way of bribing the electorate.
It's 2 years behind?
Something like that, yeah.
So, from what your emanation just now, if it's not done, if some good talent and skills and thinking is not put into it, this blessing could become a curse?
It could become a curse. It could, you know, it could become a curse if it leads to what the, you know.
What are the early indications?
Well, the price rises, obviously, but excess inflation, money flowing out of the country. I mean, I think the government's been quite sensible on things like local content and so on. But I don't think the Guyanese understand oil.
Right.
The vast majority don't understand oil. If you asked them where the rigs were, they wouldn't have a clue. If you ask them how many million barrels of oil, do you know how many million barrels of oil is produced a day at the moment?
A day?
A million isn't produced a day.
No, how many? How many?
100,000.
600,000, 660,000.
Well, there was an argument whether it's 700 or
well, the oil companies like to play with the figures.
Right.
But you know, that's a massive amount, and that'll be a million before too long when the new FPSO comes on stream. And the government has failed to tell people properly about oil. You know, they haven't got.
I wrote in a column a few weeks ago that constitutes one of the greatest vulnerability of the government, their ability to get people to understand oil and an early oil economy or a youth or juvenile oil economy, how it moves, because people see Dubai and they see oil alongside each other. And this expectation that people might get may exceed our ability to manage oil. And that can be a reason that introduce discontent and can cause the government to even fall.
There's a chapter in the new edition from Tulsi Dal Singh about what oil means to you, and he actually goes through and says, this is what you should get, this is what you should get, and don't expect this. And you know, I mean, you're right. You have to manage expectations because you know it isn't going to be nirvana in heaven overnight. But there is serious money coming in, serious money. You know, this is a HIPEC country which now has millions of US dollars coming in. So and the government's been poor at that. They've been poor at saying to people, this is what it means to you.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I've had to do a campaign for them. Never heard from them, you know. And I'm slightly dubious about highways and infrastructure because you can't eat roads. You know, the people have to. It should be there should be more concrete things. And the Wealth Fund, Freddie, the Natural Resource Fund. You know, any sensible person, if you have a savings account, you save, and then you occasionally spend some of it. That's how they work. And as I understand it, the NRF is being used as a piggy bank because that's what the law says. The Minister of Finance can go to Joe Singh and say, look, give me $300 million US dollars, and he has to do that as long as he has parliamentary approval. So this year, 96% of the money going into the wealth fund.
But don't you think that quantum of withdrawal is justified in the early stages of the fund?
No.
In that we have such a tattered economy, such a tattered country that we have to literally build from scratch. And when you project what is coming in the future, you are lamenting 4%. Can't we move from 4 to 24 and then go up gradually as we build out our economy? You think from the start we should?
Once you start feeding the machine money, once you know that you can build roads or whatever else and the money is there, it doesn't contract. So you know the idea that in 5 years' time it won't be 4%, it'll be 24%. That's for the birds, because which politicians of all sorts will say, "Oh look, there's all that money. Let's spend it, shall we? Let's spend it on something," and not say, "Let's save it for a rainy day," which is what wealth funds are supposed to do, in my understanding of it. And you know, it's not a national wealth fund; it's a national piggy bank at the moment.
Yeah, but we often refer to Norway as an example of a good wealth fund. But Norway never started its wealth fund at the beginning of its windfall.
Right.
It started many years.
So we have an advantage of it, and then you've got something to start off with. They had nothing to start off with.
4% in your first 2 years, is that too bad?
No, 4%. Think of it. Think of the National Wealth Fund as a person or a family. If you said, "Look, we're going to buy a house and we've got to save for it, and we've got to save $2 million," you can't in the first year say, "All right, we've saved $2 million, but let's take $1 million of that out and buy a car instead." Saving is saving is saving. You have to remember.
No, for me though, let me just make this point and then we can.
You're making the
For me though.
What?
The Jack point.
I hear you. I think Jack Deere could speak for himself. But you use the example of having 2 million. You say take one out and buy a car. For me, it depends on what the car can do. And what you're using the car for.
The car depreciates by 50% as soon as it comes out of the garage.
Yeah, but
so you've lost half a million.
Yeah, but cars or vehicles sometimes add value to the work you're doing. If your other work, the non-oil economy, can be energized. This vehicle you're talking about can be used to, let's say, the work of a technician fetches ladder more efficiently to the service points and all those kinds of things.
He should take out of his income, not out of his savings. And there are too many cars in Guyana anyway. You can do nothing about that. And the roads are madness. No, he should you use your income for that. Savings are savings are savings. You're saving for a rainy day, for another day. And that concept hasn't permeated the government or indeed the people.
Is the Natural Resource Fund a savings, or is it a place where you put all funds coming in from natural resources prior to determining how to spend it?
It's not a piggy bank.
Okay.
It's not a national piggy bank.
You didn't answer the question there, John.
No,
and I think he has a point there.
Well, it's a place where you put it to save for the future. It's not an intermediary place. It's not a receptacle for you then to go and spend it.
But development needs wouldn't necessitate you
for me,
go into it to spend it. What are you doing with it then?
I hear your point, but then we need some other fund.
Do you?
Probably do, because we'll then need a transition fund. No, hear what? Or utilizing one of the existing funds or something like that. But I think when the oil money comes in directly, it has to go somewhere. And then you decide some goes here and some goes there.
Yeah.
It therefore means then, using your point, the NRF is not the place where oil funds should go initially then.
No, I'm saying
because that's the entire fund.
They should go there and stay there.
No, the entire fund can go there and
stay there, but with a little bit taken off, but not 96%. That's the
so he has a problem. He has a problem with percentage.
With the percent. Okay.
No, 96%.
What I want to zero, I want to hear your thoughts on.
Yes.
As we wind in. John, I am a product of an era in Guyana where you didn't have a strong, dominant bourgeoisie. I'm a product of the Burnham era where the power of the bourgeoisie to dominate the society, to control social sections or dimensions of society was very diminished. The state was and therefore powerful people that could do what they want. They came from the state managers, party people. Here what I'd like your thoughts on. Now I am getting on in age, and I'm seeing now an economy that will produce very rich people. You have direct experience 2-3 weeks ago, where a very rich man in the world, one of the richest man in the world, said something about British politics in which a prime minister was annoyed. they had serious right-wing riots over an incident of right. And Elon Musk said civil war is coming. And Starmer was very, very annoyed about that. But nothing, the government didn't do any. Starmer was actually accused of incitement. Starmer said something about Kamala Harris. Well, when they're going to talk about, when we're going to discuss assassination or something like that about Harris.
He mixed your names up there.
Right.
No, Starmer didn't say
No,
anything.
that's not Starmer. Starmer objected to what Elon Musk said.
To bloody right.
And then the same Musk said in the US, there's talk about assassination, Trump assassination. When we can start talking about Kamala Harris, attempted Kamala Harris assassination, nothing was done. He wasn't charged. He wasn't declared persona non grata by the British. If an ordinary person had said that about Kamala Harris or said that about British politics, I think the state would have come in. Here was my what I want to talk about with oil-rich Guyana.
So your point...
Are we going to have a class of people that cannot be touched? Look at the Brutus thing. I don't want to make any pronouncement of Brutus, but when a man could be friends with businessmen and be so patronized, aren't those businessmen above the law?
Freddie, look, let's talk realistically. Look at the mouth of the Demerara River. Look at the properties adjacent to the mouth, all the way up to Houston and beyond. Look at who owns those properties. Look at who owned them in the past, and they're the same people. Fernandes, Vieira's, Monishwars, and so on. All the same people are the people who are becoming rich out of oil because they're entrepreneurial. They've got to be. I mean, 500 acres of Houston Estate is worth the Guyana GDP. Because the bourgeoisie didn't change. The bourgeoisie just became a different bourgeoisie, and so now they're making money, serious money, out of oil.
And so they can become coterminous with the society. Look at the Brutus case.
Yeah,
look at the Brutus case.
The allegedly corrupt police is something different. But no, I mean.
But look who he said he got the money from.
Yeah, well, from businessmen who want to wish him a happy wedding. How many millions of dollars?
I am wondering if in the next 5-10 years we're not going to have a class that emerge from the oil economy that is untouchable.
There is serious money in oil, serious money, and some of those people are getting some of the serious money. I don't know what you do about it, Freddie, but
I'm too old now to be a young radical.
Take a trip to Houston. Go and have a look at what's along on the riverside of Houston, Schlumberger, the shore base, all of those places. Yeah? Those are all places where the land was owned, and maybe the companies are owned by old-fashioned Guyanese capitalists, who some of them rented out. So they obviously trickle down means a big lump has to land at the top to trickle down, and it is landing at the top.
Before Leonard Craig comes in, I am a supporter of President Ali. I don't know what life holds for people, but if Guyana continues like this, he's going to get my vote next year. But I could not agree in the budget to the previous one gone that social assistance was increased by $2,000.
A month?
$2,000, yeah.
A month?
Yeah, social assistance.
What you saying is peanuts. It should have been bigger.
Yeah, and that worries me. I mean, if you have all money, social assistance is a program where people don't have, people can't get, and they ask the state for help. And in the budget, you're going to increase that by $2,000?
Which is $10. Well, look at one of the first.
I hope we change in that respect and those kinds of people.
The last week's Vice President's press conference, he said it will double next year.
But if it's double, it's 4,000.
No, not the increase. That's the increase. The whole amount will double.
Okay. That's fine. But it's one of Starmer's first things, and this is a Labour Prime Minister. One of the first things he did was take away the winter fuel allowance from everybody, which you got £200 to £300, however rich or poor you were, and it was a stupid move because it was done so crassly. So apart from people who want to think of pension credit, everybody else just had it lifted away. And it saved 1.5 billion. It wasn't worth political capital to do it. So your politicians can be very stupid. But so yes, I mean, of course, poor people should be getting more money out of oil.
Yeah,
a lot more jobs coming out of oil. Though. There's a lot more Guyanese jobs.
My only job in Guyana was a UG lecturer for 26 years. You don't want to hear what's my pension from UG and NIS. You are going to fall down. I worked my whole life. All I did in Guyana was teach at UG for 26 years.
Yeah.
I hope somebody can influence the powers that be to say, get this man something more.
But look, I mean, last week the president announced free tuition. Now, I think that's brilliant. Free tuition and student loans are cancelled. Is that right?
Yeah.
So anybody from whatever background can now go to UG and not because in Britain we used to have it.
Yeah.
And now students leave university with an average debt of 50-something thousand. So everybody should be able to go to UG and indeed to other higher education institutions for free. No, and that's an oil effect, isn't it? Schools, better schools. All right.
Well, there are indications that schooling and so on would become better. There is a concept Shelly Jagan made a little popular, and it's probably around somewhere in YouTube. When he just won government, he said, "My government will make all policies for the poor because the rich are rich; they can take care of themselves." And I would hope that that same spirit prevail with oil income, that the majority of policies that you make is made around lifting the poor. The rich, as you said, they're super rich people, and you pass on the waterfront, you can see they can take care of themselves in any economy.
So just stop a second. So, Irfan gave $1,000 last week. Should he give 5,000? Should he give 10,000?
No. I am not saying that. I think comparable. My column this week touched on that, and my argument was the last time the U.S., which is the leading economy in the world, gave a cash grant, they gave $6,000, which is 2 years ago, to soothe the effects post-COVID. Yeah. And they gave $6,000 per household.
Yeah.
And when you rank $1,000 based on average income and so on, we are on par with them, and that is good. So I wouldn't theorize further beyond 200, whatever.
So you're not Clive Thomas.
But maybe Clive Thomas has an opinion on that. But I just think that pound for pound we are punching with the big boys.
Yes.
And I will guess next year, an election year, it makes political sense to make it higher.
Yes.
John, I collect to $3,000. I think it's 33.
Oh, is this your pension?
In pension, yeah. As a senior citizen, how much you think that should be? That should go to?
How much? What is that? How much is that in US dollars?
33.
150.
150.
Well, I only get 1,000 as an English old age pension.
Yeah.
But
there may be other spin-offs.
A state pension. But look, I think the oil money should be spent. Yes, I agree. Do I think it should be spent on highways? I'm not sure. If it's a choice between a highway and a house lot, I'd say give people house lots every time.
I hear you, but I would go more for balance.
Well, everything is a balance. The Greeks started philosophy by saying life is a balance. Yeah, you have to balance. The balance is important.
Yeah.
When one is being tilted in favor,
But I think in the initial years, the initial stages, you have to go after some of the roads while you build a momentum on the other thing. Because remember the other things. Remember, when you spend on roads, it's almost like a one-time investment. You build...
It isn't a Guyana because you have to repair it because it's badly made. Yeah, so it's
you subscribe to that view too, that some of these constructions are badly done?
Well, I do know that. So I'm told, and so I see.
So you saw.
So yeah, I've seen. The airport road, is already falling apart. We haven't talked about the menace of sand lorries in this country. They've just arrived from nowhere, like vehicles from outer space, and on the East Bank Road, it's like you take your life in your hands.
Yeah.
And the state has no regulation of it. There's no regulation of it as far as I can see.
Right.
You just buy a sand lorry and go up and down. So if you want to see the limit of state power in Guyana, look at that. So give people something. The material is what I would say. You can't eat roads. You can't eat highways. You might use them, but you can't eat them.
Yeah, but as I'd say, is a foundation to creating something to eat. Because if you can't get from your farm to your market, then you can't, effectively feed your nation.
You don't need a huge highway for that.
John, one of the things, we operator signal 5 minutes.
Okay. One
of the things I've always longed for in this country, I never been to high school. I educated myself and did the GC. One of the things I always long for in this country is to have a Queen's College in other areas. I mean, I give Burnham credit. He started these multilateral schools that were quite excellent. They had all the facilities. Why can't we build another Queen's College or another St. Stanislas in Region 2, in Region 3?
I thought Burnham established President's College or something like that.
Yes, he just...
Is it any good? I mean, the secret of a good school is very simple. You know what it is? Good teachers. Good teachers. Sometimes you have to pay them quite a lot of money. One of my sons went to a very posh school. He had a scholarship there. And what he got there was good teaching. And without good teachers, you don't get good kids. So that's what you have to concentrate on.
These kids work their brains off because I think there's only 130 places for QC.
Yeah.
And everybody wants to go to QC. After almost 60 years of independence, shouldn't we have a QC in Region 6 and Region 3?
Well, why not? You need to spend money on persuading the teachers to go. They're good teachers.
Shouldn't all money be used in that respect?
Well, why not? A school is just a building. It's just a construction. It's a building. It's teachers, and it's an ethos. Nothing more to it than that. And the labs and so on are extra. But yes, of course, build good high school. Burmese high school good these days or not?
I don't know. He's a Barbician. He goes to Barbician.
Yeah. It is probably the ranking school in
Burmese. Is there
not the ranking school nationally?
No. It probably would be on the level of Saints or one.
The boys who came to QC some came from Burmese High School. They transferred.
Yeah.
So you can build on what you got, and I know where you build. Obviously, on the coastal plain, you build very good schools, but you only do that through good teachers, and you train good teachers, you pay them well, and you also keep checking on them.
We gotta go. Operators say 2.5 minutes left.
Okay.
Tell me what you want to see done with this oil money. If somebody was to come and say, look, this is the country, like this table is. Tell me where you want this money to go into. If John Mair was to advise the president on how to use oil money, what do you want to see?
Use it sensibly to the best effect?
No, not those general terms.
Specifics. All right. Housing, education. To prime things, yeah, and employment, but employment is subsidiary. But people need a house, and they need the kids need education to get out from where they're living, and obviously food.
What about salaries? Policemen and soldiers and public servants, they work hard,
That's food.
Yes, I mean, one of the first things that the new Labour government did was put 5.5% on public sector salaries. Probably good. Policemen, they work hard. They also get lots of small pieces here and there.
that is being cynical, man. A few of them take.
Or in one senior officer's case, how many million was it? 8 million?
No, the time has come. John has to have the last.
No. I just wanted to ask there's some environmental lobbyists who said we should have left the oil in the
ground, which I think is total nonsense.
What you expect him to say from knowing him and all that he writes in his book? What you expect him to say?
Total nonsense.
John,
it's a bunch of rich people saying.
It is.
That's where I do agree with Freddie.
He's an incompetent journalist. He didn't look at the previous interview February when you said it was a bunch of bourgeois people. John, it's always interesting talking to somebody with the gargantuan experience of you in journalism.
We could go and talk about Guyanese journalists because I think.
But you're coming in February, so.
All right, we'll talk about them.
You're coming in February.
I'll just give you one example. I've just been since Stanislaus for a week with the relatives of Father Feeney, who've come from all over the world to celebrate their uncle, and people from all over, and not one Guyanese journalist interviewed them, not one. And in that story, these people who come to salute one man.
John, we got to go. You're going to contact me in February. We're going to do this again in February.
You've got to go and have lunch with another High Commissioner.
Yeah, I hope you get your money from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
So this book is available from December on Amazon, and I will be hawking copies around town as well.
Thanks for being with us. You were looking at the interview with one of Guyana's most accomplished journalists in the international arena. This is a man who left Guyana a long time ago but comes back twice a year. Still the Guyanese blood in him. His name is John Mair, and you would know him as his letters are signed by Bill Cotton.
Reform.
Bill Cotton reform. I've been cynical about the PNC reform thing. John, thanks for being here again. We'll do this in February.
Surely.
Thanks. Thank you.